No, unfortunately, no.
She's so easier because she's a future daughter.
There's your own. I'm working. Just getting started.
Yeah.
Just getting started.
Thank you.
On my other side of it.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the pledge to the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
sign up sheet, Rebecca Stern, but I think we're gonna get to the Northeast product, so maybe I'll just hold your,
Okay,
I'm sure, unless you're here for something else.
no, it's that topic, so.
I figured. I mean, that probably makes more sense, just to wait. Yeah, then we'll go through that, then we'll get your comments.
Okay,
before we do
that's fine,
anything.
thank you.
Then we'll get, maybe some of the questions will be answered, or, is that okay?
That's fine, thank you.
Approval of the minutes from October 21st. Any questions, Sam?
Nope, I don't know. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll say, all in favor? Aye. Code enforcement.
All right, for the period ending 10/26, we issued 8 building permits with a total construction value of $120,890. We issued 11 COs and then performed 18 building inspections. Some of the properties that we've been working with, one of course is the aforementioned 604 Crisscross. We had issued a notice of violation for failing to comply with the zoning permit. The property for the tenant has made great strides, and from the email I received today, they assure me that they will be in compliance till the end of the week, which is their deadline. Have they moved the product?
A
The
good bit,
material?
a
Yeah.
good bit.
They should have it all moved till the end of the week. Kutztown Temple, 18 Crystal Cave, they had their zoning hearing. They were granted relief to put the sign in that they'd like to. Then we had 53 Crystal Ridge, that was a property that had vehicles and other items that stayed in disrepair. Compliance achieved at that one. 13929 Kutztown Road, Kirbyville, permit has been issued. It looks much better already in a week's time. We've gotten a lot cleaned up, so I expect to see that turn around pretty quickly. See what else is exciting here. $2237, the Silver Springs will be issuing a notice from that property. Here's another one, compliance achieved. 446 Oak Haven Road. Again, that was junk vehicles and trash. Does the board have any questions?
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Is mine road in compliance?
Pardon?
Is mine road in compliance?
The citations were issued.
For mine road?
Yeah, we just couldn't wait any longer.
Okay.
So we'll keep you up to date. I'm sure when he gets that, it takes up really quick.
I thought we had that thing done.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
What's that?
That's why I asked. This seems to be a struggle.
Yeah. He's so close, so close. But I've given him about as much time as I can.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
SEO report. Doesn't look like anything's really there.
No, nothing on that.
Police report.
Good evening. Total police report for Richmond Township. Patrol miles approximately 2,797, 264 patrol hours, handled 162 incidents, 28 crash investigations, issued 34 traffic citations. Total vehicle stops are 53. Criminal investigation follow-up time is 13 hours and 13 hours of court time. In October, we handled 6 USAR reportable crimes for Richmond Township, one disorderly conduct, fraud, illegal dumping, warrant violation, theft, and shots fired into an occupied home. An investigation was initiated into shots fired in a home in the township, which may be linked to a similar incident in Fleetwood Borough. Department-wide, we handled 27 reportable crimes in October, and we effected 12 criminal arrests. Personnel, we have a full-time officer that's out currently injured, and a part-time officer that's out for surgery. He's expected to return in about another week or so. The other thing I have is we submitted an informational grant writer. We're applying for a LSA grant for funding for license plate reader cameras, new tasers, new radios, and patrol room renovations. Fine. Any questions?
We have license plate readers now, or?
No, it's not currently in the township, no.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Virgin Mill fire report. Submitted. Any questions on there? No. All the towns? You guys have many brush fires?
Nothing really major, except for that one in Reading. They called us to the one in Reading. Other than that, nothing really major, just minor stuff.
Pretty lucky, I think he was.
Yeah, very
Bone
lucky.
dry.
Drives it.
Any questions there? All right, on to the budget. I think we went through this pretty part of the budget meeting. We didn't do anything with salaries, so that has to be done, so this can be advertised. All right. Any other areas of concern?
not included?
No.
No.
We haven't really decided on you not being here.
You said it wasn't approved?
26th not. Do we need an executive session then to do that, or?
Yeah, we should come up with something on that before we advertise it.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, we have to approve it tonight too.
No, I could do something with it. Anything else we can't get through here pretty well?
Everything else we would-
Yeah, I don't think we will.
Do you want to do an executive session for this now, and I can throw everything up into the plans?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that
give
would
us a
be.
couple options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do an executive session at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll,
That's just isn't rare. So.
we're just gonna put that, I think everything else is good except the salary, we gotta come up with that.
Right.
Executive session, we'll come back and announce the budget, the workplace and everything else. Alright. The discussion for Burke's Crime Alert, donating to that.
We didn't donate once this past year for $500. That was the first time we donated. We don't have any doing that
I think we talked to the chief last time, I think he supports it, I would
Yeah.
put that in the budget for next year,
again. Okay.
500. I make a motion, we do that,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Discuss additional polling locations.
There was some talk between the road crew and a lot of people that were here voting, stating that it was taking quite a long time with getting in here and voting, as well as not having the capacity for handicapped people. There was a lot of people that were parking up in the stones, having to have the wheelchairs come down through the stones, having walkers trying to guide themselves through the stones rather than they had certain cars that were able to park in the paved area, but the other ones had to go up into the stones. It was thought about having 222 here as the barrier between districts, voting districts, possibly having Fleetwood Bible Church take part of it and us take the other part of it, of voting. That way you wouldn't have as massive amount of people here at the building. It'd be quicker for the people to come in and out, and we have more space.
Do we control that though, election? Is that what you know? We don't control, that's election board.
Yeah, you would have to.
It's something that we can actually ask,
Yeah,
see
you
if
can
they,
make a
if they could
request
actually
for them.
ask them to do it, but it would have to be guided by us to see if they would be able to reach out to see if somebody else would be able to divide it, if you would be willing to split it in half.
Yeah, it was quite intense, the last three presidential elections. Beyond that,
Right,
we could do with half of what we have.
right.
Representative Dave Maloney was here. I know he was gonna pursue it. I talked to him a little bit
Okay,
on the day of election. So I don't know that Fleetwood Bible Church, I don't know how that would split up for, we could look at it, but they could probably come up with a plan. Somewhere to come up with another polling location.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad idea for presidential. I mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it for all.
right.
But I mean,
Right.
it's pretty quiet on off. you know.
It just, they have, it was only recommended that we reach out to them only because they have more capabilities for the handicap parking.
Yeah.
There's a lot more parking space. If, heaven forbid, it would have rained for the presidential
Yeah,
election, you
yeah.
have those people out there, it's just, would have been a rough thing.
And it's a slower process than it was in years past.
Right,
These new machines, yeah, I think we should pursue that.
okay,
I don't know if Fleetwood Bible Church is the place, but a second polling location is probably wise.
okay.
I'll make a motion that we pursue that. All in favor?
Aye.
Old business, the Warm Kessel survey and the property corner issues. Chris asked to just suspend that to next meeting.
Mhm.
So we're gonna do that. He has to be here in person. He can't make that. It's an ongoing issue. Engineers report, solar farm update.
Right now, the last discussion we had, they requested that we get quotes for some of the paving repairs that were on the punch list. We are in the process of doing so. Unfortunately, I think we will get those Wednesday. But regardless, I think as long as they are receptive to what those quotes are, we'll probably just keep that moving and seeing if we can get that in before the end of the year if the weather is still good.
They haven't did anything with the Knox boxes either yet. They're
They
still
haven't?
hanging open, they're the same as they were before.
We are, we're still holding on to money for that site, so it's not,
I mean, all you gotta do is throw a key in there for the locks and close them up. Not hard that.
we can keep asking them. We did bring it up to them, I think, well, it was probably 3 months ago when we
And
first.
they said, oh, no problem, we'll get it done.
Don't you guys put the keys in those, lock them up?
No, they gotta supply the keys that go in the boxes for the locks that are on the gates. We got the key to open the box.
right.
Yeah, wherever they.
All they gotta do is make a phone call, say, hey, can you lock the box, we build it.
Okay.
We'll add that to their list. The Conservation District is not gonna close out their permit until spring. They kind of waited to the end of the year again, so we're in that end of it. There is still a couple items that we need to do a walkthrough on the site for. They are supposed to get back to me. They said they had done some of I know we talked about that basin and whether they actually got in there and did the soils over again. They claim they did. I'm waiting for the pictures. I don't necessarily know if our office downloaded all our pictures in the right places, so I'm still trying to get back to that. And I did bring up the pond and just going over the general design of that with them, just to talk about it again before this is done, just to get a better idea and see if there is anything that could be done or could be changed to maybe utilize that a little more. But that's still ongoing. That's about it for the solar farm at this time, unless there's a question.
We'll keep that open until spring though, because of time.
Yeah.
Maybe make the end of decisions. Willow Crest.
Their Grande is, we're looking to meet with them. They are just do a final walkthrough before they come in and do the work. They're still kind of, they don't want to do it until they're certain about what's laid out for the parking lot, because that's part of what they're willing to do when they grade out the area to the east of Rhino Drive. So they still have to do that. The light company, as Jen kept leaning on them, basically said there was a couple lines that still have to be complete. They just paid whatever fees they needed to, so that should be something they get in there and get done, hopefully sooner than later. I think as soon as the lighting goes to it, MedEd has that project open, so they can get out there and just finish that up, for the lighting at least. So, other than that, we have to do a final walkthrough. Robbie and I kind of did a preliminary already, just before we get into the street dedication finally. But really the paving looks good. There's just some minor concrete curb and inlets, I think, so. Sheets, that project, they're right at the end of their 90 days. So the plans have not changed. They've just been whatever in that 3 months, they hadn't gotten everything wrapped up. They literally just need to have the owner sign the plans, and then they'll be in front of all the planning commission and board members for signatures. And I think the agreements are all but wrapped up. So they're looking to get those recorded and move into that phase, but they do need the board to take action to reaffirm the approval of those plans. So tonight, that would be something that would need to be done. Jen can put a quick letter together, and that way they can get the plans recorded. Otherwise, the county will say they've been past the 90 days. So they would need the board to reaffirm the approval of the plans.
I'll make a motion to reaffirm the approval of the plans.
Also,
All in favor?
Aye.
Do they have a target date?
I think they have gotten their building plans. I think the building plans just got submitted. So I think once those get reviewed, they'll probably jump in there. I bet you, I'm gonna take a stab at it, probably in about 60 days to get in there and start work, as long as they have that bid already. But I can ask them.
No, I'm just curious.
I only asked about the recording process and getting that part moving, but we can find out.
Is it a total tear down and rebuild?
Yeah, they'll be out. It's about 60 days. They're completely not open. I think, didn't they shut down the one in there, or did they keep part of it?
No, it was totally shut down.
Yeah.
The whole building.
Yeah,
they're
they
doing
start
the
with
whole
that.
Yeah, one of these working. Yeah.
And that was Laura Heidelberg too. But they're 90 days tops. They don't let them go past 90 days. So they'll be open after that. But so Northeast Products is the next one on here.
I think the planning commission recommended, conditional approval, of the plan that was submitted.
So they did. I don't know if you want to review anything with the plan. We can kind of go through some of this here if you want to discuss this. But one of the items that, and I'll kind of work backwards here. The planning commission did make recommendations there were waivers, and they also made a recommendation for a conditional preliminary final plan approval. There was still an open item that the truck turning into the property, although it does make a wide turn on Crisscross Road now to get in there. Now is the time to say you need to try to correct that. So they are going to widen the driveway even more than they had. They had to reduce a little bit of paving on the site to do so. That plan came into our office just as a check print to show that they can, to demonstrate that they can do that. It does basically kind of clip the yellow line as it comes in, but they are allowing for traffic on the other side of the road to still be able to move as that car comes in and out. We discussed having a note on the plans, just saying as the deliveries are made, it would be best to have somebody to be at the property just for flagging as necessary if that were something they had to do. But even without that, they did show that a truck can move in and out of that property without encroaching into that other lane. So they are expanding the building within the ordinance requirements for a existing non-conforming use. So that allows them up to, I think, 50% of what the existing is. So that's what they have done. They did have storage containers on the property, which kind of was one of the reasons that pushed them into this land development plan. You need to be in compliance here. So that storage container will remain, but it's also part of their building coverage. That's one of the comments that had come up. There is a certain amount of paving on the property that is contributing to their maxing out their impervious coverage. That's building and the paving, but the paving had to accommodate parking as well as circulation of their delivery vehicles. There's additional stone on the property. Just to clarify, that stone is there to be able to have storage of finished product. The impervious by stone is allowed by the ordinance, but not, like I said, they've maxed out their paving. So for their driveway parking and their drive aisles, they're as far as they can go with that. One of the questions was the storage of materials on the property that had come up in the past. So Jeff and I had been to the site to walk through a couple items with zoning as well as land development, just to look at it, make sure everybody's on the same page. Their zoning hearing decision and their permit allows them to store finished product on the outside of the property. They're on an impervious surface and not in the grass. That's one of the things that they had to change from what their process was. Their finished product, just so everyone's aware, some of it is, it's a docking material. Most of it's a fabricated dock, but not all of their docks look the same. So some of them, and that was kind of a learning process on our end, is you can see the railings or the boat launches, but sometimes it's just the boat launches. Sometimes it's just the flat deck. The floats that they use aren't a finished product. Some of the other materials they had there, which they understand. From what I understand, they've either purchased or leasing another property beyond this one where they are storing that. That's where they've been cleaning up on the violation that was issued and putting that. So there's going to be a transport of kind of small deliveries with those floats on a regular basis coming in because of that. Trying to think if there's anything else to kind of touch on here. I don't know if anybody has any questions. There was one more just that I'm thinking of it. Along the existing residential property, which is also the borough boundary, there's kind of some trees, some fences that are neighboring properties. Part of what they're doing is going to line that entire property line with arborvitae. I think they're going to be planted at like 6 to 8 foot when they're planted, but there's a portion of it that's already there, and they're probably a 20-foot arborvitae. That's what they're hoping they grow to. They are putting a fence in as well, but that fence is in one portion behind a retaining wall, so there's probably only going to be about 2 or 3 feet of that showing after the retaining wall, which is why they're adding the arborvitae as well. So I think that the one other item that had come up too is the fan on the building. So we did get up when we were out there. We did see that they turned it on. It's an exhaust fan. They installed that basically because of the fabrication that they're doing inside. There was a lot of welding and that created the heat. So they put the fan on the outside. The land development will create a building that will be between the fan and the residential properties. They've agreed to put a note on the plan stating that if it's still too loud, they'll willingly put additional louvers, or they kind of call it a hood to put on there to try to help. But they would hope that the addition with the building and blocking that directly from where the sound was traveling will help. Personally, I'm not out there every day, but from when we were out there, it just sounded like an exhaust fan. But if it's been on for a while, it might be a different story. So they have agreed to that. And like I said, we're putting a note on the plan to just kind of capture that.
So who makes that determination?
I think if there are still complaints coming in, then I think we would have to act on that as far as the zoning officer. And
I mean, it seems arbitrary. I mean, it's loud now, but it doesn't work. So they might say, "Oh, it's not loud." The neighbors say it is loud. Who makes that determination?
Can it face Rhino Drive where there are no houses?
I don't know, but some solution has
It's already on the corner of the building, and
I mean, I'm just saying, like, we can talk about it and say, hey, if it doesn't work, but that's nothing concrete. I mean, that's subjective. It obviously doesn't work right now for the neighbors.
Well, if you wonder, you'd also take decibel readings before and after.
So-
Before the building's put up and after to see
I think that's the, if we were gonna enforce it per the ordinance, it's a decibel reading
right, so you almost have to have some kind of
situation, so.
We won't have this.
And I looked into that too, because of the question came up of, well, why don't we have a decibel reader? I guess because, as I understand it, it's a very difficult defensible position in court of having that, or it's been an issue in the past. And it never seems to pan out. If that's something that we wanna enforce in the situation and say, then that's the direction we have to go. Then I
We
think
would have
that's
to
the way
bring
we go for
somebody
it.
in to do it that's certified.
Right.
Yeah.
But can you make it part of the plan? Let's just fix it. I realize they're in a bad spot to build right next to residential, which was there first, the residents. But we know before we approve this plan,
To answer your question, yes, yeah.
There's an
If you
issue.
want to make it a condition on plan approval to ensure that it's in accordance with the ordinance, I think we can add that to the conditions for the plan.
Does the ordinance have a decibel?
what's the
It does,
decimal?
it's in your ordinance.
What is it? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you offhand, it's 60s, 70s.
I say you, yeah, I was thought around 85 or something. That was.
I'd have to look.
I think it was what we used.
Because to say it and make it subjective, and then they'll come back and say, well, this isn't that loud, and it meets the decibel requirement, and the neighbor still can hear it from their point of view. I mean, something has to be a little more firm than, hey, if it doesn't work, we'll change it.
Well, as long as,
That don't seem very defensible.
I think, as long as we're in agreement then that we use the numbers that are in the ordinance, that's what we can enforce. So if they're below what's in the ordinance now, and the neighbors feel it's too loud, there's nothing that can be done then.
I can probably speak to that. I do a lot of sound pressure level testing. Done a lot of stuff with noise like that. I don't know what the ordinance states, but if I had to guess, it was in the high 60s, low 70 dB. I would be very, very surprised that at 100 feet, that fan was anywhere near that. So you're probably well below what we could enforce right now,
That's my guess.
realistically, without knowing what the numbers are. But, and that's all subject to relative humidity, wind. There's a whole lot of stuff that plays into that. But I kind of like Brian's point where we should, if it's an issue, it's much easier to address it now than to come back. Because it's, that is a, or you can really get into weeds with something like that.
Well, we can, if you have any recommendations, we can find somebody to come out that's certified and take some readings and, try.
Well, my thinking is it might be easier, not, correct me if I'm wrong, they're putting a structure in front of this between, that's gonna be your best.
Right.
That's basically a noise barrier.
Right.
If that, my thinking is, if that is at the same plane or higher than the fan, you're gonna probably reduce that by 50% or something.
Well, that's what they're.
But it's not a sure thing because we don't know, we don't have that
Right.
building there now. The other thing you can do is put a hood on the fan to work the noise down.
Yep.
Cuts the efficiency of the fan a little bit. That would be more of a sure thing at this point.
Just to show you. This upside down T is the building, and it's located right there on the side of the building, and then here's your addition. And these are gonna be connected so that you can come in and out, so this whole footprint is going to basically be the same.
Property are here.
Yeah, these are the properties here.
And where's the fan? On top of the building, on the side?
It's
So
it's
it's
off
not-
the side of the building.
So it's not directly facing the residents right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I think the concern came from the residents in this direction.
Is there an elevation here? Something?
Yes,
I'm just curious of the relationship of this
You're
building.
brilliant.
Is this about the same height, this
These will
building?
be the same height, yeah.
Yeah.
These will be the same height.
Is it
Bottom
flat
corner
roof
of the
or
property,
a gable roof?
I think it's flat. I believe that's what they're doing. This is, the existing building's a flat roof building.
Yeah.
So they are
That's
here.
just a-
So here they're 92. So they're about 8 feet higher than the bottom corner of the property, but the buildings are the same level.
That's gonna be your best buffer.
But I mean, I think if the question's up in the air and if there's any questions before,
You know, we can
Board
bring
makes any
somebody in
decision.
if that's the board's desire to take readings now.
I think if there's any hesitation, I would recommend it.
You bring somebody in, it still meets the township standards, but it still won't solve the problem.
Yeah.
That's my point. I mean, you're gonna tell me that it's gonna be below that sound. They're right on the edge of town.
Yeah.
And I know it's allowed, but I mean, is there some compromise here? Is there something that, I mean, it's not a huge cost, I can't think, but put some sort of noise.
And we can put the hood on it. We could have them put the hood
I
on
would
it.
ask, I would kind of make that a thing, that, and with the hood and the building there, that's probably gonna be undetectable then out at the residential area. I mean, you might hear it, but it will be greatly reduced. Unless it's like the noisiest fan I've ever heard.
I worked on a project up in Richland and Lebanon County. We had some dust collectors that you had to put hoods on and direct the sound away, and to try and keep it on the property, it really seemed to help.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean,
We do.
we're limited to, it's a bad spot to have a
I
business.
mean, this isn't a
right?
squirrel cage fan, this is just a axial fan.
A fan with louvers that flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. If you build a hood out.
So is it actually the fan or the louvers that you're hearing? Don't know.
Yeah, some of it's gonna be a little bit.
Yeah.
You just have the drone of the fan.
Yeah. Regardless, if you divert with a hood and then have that building there, I mean, that's not a big ask, and I mean, it's gonna be as good as it's gonna get at that point.
It was discussed and they didn't push back on the idea.
I just feel better about that. I mean, we don't have to test, we know there's an issue, and let's just.
And I don't,
I mean, it's not a huge cost, we're not asking them,
Let's say they would add the hood if
They're in the
necessary. I think we're asking them to add it.
Right.
Add it.
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
I think that's fine. I don't think I don't think that's a problem. That's something
Don't
that's
wait for it to
being
be a problem, just add the hood now.
asked. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So the board is recommending a hood on the fan.
Correct. The only other noises out there and have been complaints is the backup alarms, but unfortunately that is, I mean, it's an OSHA required, it's a safety thing. They did have, I didn't see any of the truck deliveries when we were out there, but they had your standard lifts and, forklifts. They just, that was running around the property pretty much the whole time moving. They were also trying to get in compliance as well, so there might have been more, but they seem to be moving around on the property quite often. But that's kind of part of what comes with the use.
Those propane though, right? Those probably not that loud.
Well,
The machines themselves, no.
No, that's what I
don't
mean.
think
So
so.
those forklifts generally aren't that loud. It's the back. It's the back.
So there were, they did have there were two waivers that were recommended, and I've learned from Michelle, they're called modifications when it's stormwater, it's not a waiver. So there are two modifications and two waivers. Typically, we can kind of go through them, and then if we discuss those, bring those up. I don't know if you want to open up the comment at that point.
Yeah, let's go through everything you have and then we'll open up the comment.
So then the first waiver was a waiver of the preliminary plan process to allow for a preliminary / final plan submission to take place in one approval. Typically, when we've gone through the plan this many times and had several meetings with the planning commission, that's been considered in the past. There's a waiver for 506.1, which is to allow for a 1-inch to 30-foot scale. Basically, it allows for more, better clarification on the plan. So it's a little more than 1 inch equals 50, but that's for clarity purposes. So I would recommend that one. The stormwater modifications, both of these are items that we've talked about having a change the ordinances in general. This would allow for a less than 36 inch clearance from any kind of limiting. They did testing, found rock on the property. This allows them to be within 24 inches, but that's also in accordance with DEP regulations. So on that, since that's a standard practice that DEP has adopted, I would recommend that. And the other one is, so that was 310.B, 310.B.12.B. Sorry, Jim.
That's it.
And the other one's 310.B.12.D. And that's to allow for the infiltration with stormwater to occur longer than 24 hours. Our ordinance says within 24 hours it should infiltrate. Standard practice now is no greater than 72. So that just gives it a longer time to infiltrate, and they demonstrate both of these things on their plans. So those are the 2 waivers, 2 modifications.
Nothing other than usual.
As far as the waivers, modifications, no.
Then there's zoning, is there limitations on work hours?
The limitations are not for working hours. It's,
It would be
I think it's
outside,
noise.
if there was outside work being done. Typically, construction is what your ordinance details, not daily activities here at the plant.
Yeah, I think it's, lighting is typically something you see on hours or limited to certain times of day, but not necessarily the working hours. That's come up quite a bit in a number of municipalities, especially ones you're dealing with warehousing. But unless you have it specifically noted in your zoning ordinance, which not a lot of people try to limit the hours of just about any use. But some do on specific uses like that, at least anymore.
All right, anything else?
No, I was unsure.
Public comment, Rebecca?
But the talks of the business expanding, more than it already has, we spoke to a lawyer who says it is a big stretch to allow this type of business to hold the same non-conforming use of light manufacturing title that the previous owner had. Also, are there any, you touched on it, any rules about weekend operations? The last 4 Saturdays, they've, I know they're fixing what they have had a mess for the past 4 years that no one did anything about before. But they would work every now and then on a Saturday, but to have what normally you hear noise for 5 days be 6 days, it's really frustrating. So you can't even, if you wanted to have a get together or whatever, you're not gonna get to enjoy yourselves because you hear the beeping. And it's not just the beeping, it's the manufacturing. You can hear the saws cutting the aluminum, etc. I hear that a lot less than I hear the beeping, because sometimes the doors are closed most of the time their doors are open. And there was talk about a parking lot at the base and that being a turnaround, not being allowed to be a turnaround.
That was part of
did you
what
talk
we've
about
kind
that
of been
today?
ongoing with them is their deliveries that come in. So the movement of the truck as it comes in will more often, and then I'm doing this just off of, if you're looking at the property, the truck will usually come in, turn to the left and then back to the right. That's really where they're gonna be receiving all of their product. That's where they'll be unloading most of their materials. So that's away from the, I think that's the right way. Do I have that back?
Yep.
Up front.
Up front.
Okay, so that's where they would
Yeah.
receive, unload, have the materials come in there, do their operation. When they load the final product, that same truck would, I believe, turn in and go along the property, go along the same boundary as the residential property. They do not go any further than that. That's where the truck is limited to for deliveries, simply because they're not paving the whole lot. They can't pave the whole lot. So they're limited to then unloading the truck from that area.
So it's
that's-
going to be paved down below? Or it's
No,
going to be stone?
It's just gonna be stone.
Okay, and that's going to be like a parking lot?
That's gonna be where they can put their finished product.
So what they've been doing all along, but didn't have a non-impervious. Okay. And then my other thing was, when they had addressed you back in May, they said that they weren't hiring more employees and they were gonna expand their building, they just needed the room for their product. There's definitely more cars parked there, more workers there than there was 2 years ago, than there was 4 years ago. So I'm just saying that it's more. So what's gonna stop them from running 6 days, 7 days a week, whatever hours they want? There's nothing.
So as far as the hours go, like I said, the township ordinances, we looked into it too. There just isn't,
Yeah,
there isn't
that's,
an ordinance that
yeah,
requires
I
or
understand that.
restricts them from working on certain days. And I'm not sure if the recent activity of working on more weekends was trying to make sure they move that stuff off
Sure,
and avoid the violation or not.
but think of it as one of the neighbors who, no holds barred, they get a big order and, oh yeah, we can do that 7 days a week, 10-hour days. There's nothing to stop that.
So they have on here that the parking they're showing is based off of the shifts for the building. And they're saying existing employees is 8, proposed additional employees is 12. So they are increasing the number of employees. So they're providing the parking based on the number of employees and spacing they need per the ordinance. So
In
they
May,
have
I thought they presented to you saying they weren't hiring more.
I don't remember if they said that or not. I
Well,
just.
so now it's gonna be 12, what's to be 24? What shifts are we gonna be allowed to work? Which is again why our, the lawyer we spoke to said it is a big stretch. Because you don't have these things in place.
Well, the parking is in place. It's,
No, I mean the hours of operation is what I'm getting at.
sorry.
I mean, if the plan says 12, this plan will ultimately be recorded and 12 will be the number. So if that's what the board approves, it's going to be 12.
And they are, as part of this plan, putting in as much building and as much impervious coverage as the property allows. And that's within the limits of the ordinance of what they're working. They wanted more, but this is as far as they can go. And that's what we've been working with them on, trying to make sure they're completely in compliance with what the ordinance calls for. But to your point, the questions that have come up as you've asked about hours, as we look into it, I'm just providing you the answers are based off of what the ordinance is about.
I think there would be a limit to what they could do. in that amount of square feet, square footage. Who knows, but I think if they got to the point they would outgrow the building. So, it's not a real big building. That's not a lot of space for what they're doing there. Either one of
Which is why it's on the side.
them. I mean, the addition that they're putting in is 7,500 square feet.
Yeah, the planning commission asked a very similar question of what keeps them from trying to expand in any way, shape, or form, and the answer is the recorded plan just shows the maxed out for building, paving, employees are what they are based on where.
I think they're pretty much done on that property.
They would have to go for a variance, which I have no reason to think they would get a variance for anything to expand on that property.
But the ordinance is not regulating the amount of employees or the hours of operation, correct?
No.
Is that?
Not the hours, the employees are limited to what that use calculates for the parking spaces. So to that point, they can't go beyond that number of employees.
Would that be per shift though? They say
Correct.
12
I
employees.
think so, yeah.
And you have 12 employees on day shift. If they need more work, then they're gonna run second shift, and run 12 people on second shift. Is that in that way, or is it just 12 employees?
It's one space per each employee on the two largest shifts.
So they could,
So that's what they're maxed out on. That
So
would be
then
the
they
20.
could be running a second shift, and we're gonna be hearing beeping until 10, 11 o'clock at night? Is what you're telling me?
I'm thinking that's a valid point, and I'm not sure what restrictions we could put on that, but if they're limited space, right? And they're gonna manufacture and they're just gonna want something doing 2 shifts, 3 shifts.
Well, the only restriction we have at this point is parking spaces.
Yeah, so we have 20 employees and 3 shifts, that's 60 people.
I guess that would be a possibility,
well, they could.
but I don't know that we can restrict their hours of operation.
I don't know that. can-
Which again is why
So
the
that-
lawyer we spoke
well,
to said this is a stretch to have it even be.
But our lawyer said it's not,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I guess whatever side you're paying the bill, I guess it's 2 different points of view. And I get it, and I appreciate your situation, I just not quite sure.
Let me ask you a question on that, just out of curiosity. After a certain time at night, how much noise are you allowed to make?
Well, it is reduced, but again, construction noise in the ordinance, it is regulated by the clock as far as the dB decibel level.
But that's not work noise, that's construction.
Correct.
So if you're building a house or,
Right.
I mean, but if you have a loud party going on late at night, is that legal to have all that noise?
I'm sure there's restrictions.
Yeah,
on that
I'm
too.
just asking, in
Yeah,
curiosity.
I'm just trying to cover.
You got trains going through at 3 o'clock in the morning from one end to the other, from Latin to Fleetwood.
That existed before the house.
Full
Yeah.
horn all the way
Full
through.
horn, yep.
You got it. Every morning. So you gotta stop that, no.
The same with cement, but when you hear from my house, the constant.
I can hear the trains when it rains too.
Yeah.
That's the other way, but-
Yeah, it's a tough call. I go through everything the planning commission asked for, and they gave them everything. What more we could ask for? I mean, we can't restrict the hours that they operate. That would generally be a concern. It's a tough call.
Well, it's hard to say the number of employees is gonna increase the noise and the issues, because if they're running all the time, regardless if there's 8 people or 10 people, they're gonna be constantly running, I'm sure, and constantly sawing back at whatever they're doing. I don't know if that's gonna, I'm sure it can get better, but it's hard to say how that's gonna affect it.
Do you have any noise concern just from the daily operation other than the fan and the backup beepers?
You
I mean,
can
do you
hear them.
actually hear any of the fabrication? that goes
Yes.
on?
Yes,
I think, I'm just thinking out loud, typically on those buildings, it usually says that noise should be contained to within the building, or the operation should be within the building. If these doors are being left open and it's becoming part of the concern, I think that's something we can address with them and have them shift from doing that. I mean, they're gonna wanna run the fans more often because of that. But
Yeah,
it's
just
kind
because
of,
of the heat.
well, they have to get the things that they're building out.
In and out.
Yeah.
It's,
when they do that.
I can see why they leave the doors open.
Yeah, so the reality
It's
is,
just
say they're
to
gonna
be
close,
there.
but they're gonna not take them up down.
Yeah, there's gonna be times when
Yeah.
we leave them open too.
I guess insulating anything isn't gonna. These just siding buildings or.
I didn't look too close at that, but I'd assume they're probably just saying,
That's what I mean, it's not.
I mean, I really, I get the neighbor's concern.
Can't you put a thing on the beeper when you back up, you can turn it half volume down?
That's probably ocean regulated.
Yeah, you get in big trouble for that.
If something happens, then there's
Oh
gonna
my
be
God.
lawsuits.
Yeah, especially.
One of them is a little less loud than the other.
They're all different.
Because what was here before was not noisy. It was very small, very minimal. And now here we go and put a
Not very loud
full-fledged
at all.
factory in there in the middle of frickin'
It's
residential.
probably different models or different.
Yeah, it's not the ideal location.
It's definitely not the ideal location. But there's only so much we can do.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have to deal with what's there. And, which is, I hate to say it, I mean, if they're in compliance, they do everything that we've asked them for. There's nothing, I don't know that, on what grounds could we refuse it? Is what I'm thinking. I'm just not, I don't know. I have to look at both sides of it.
And I get it, but to have 3 shifts of grinding and carrying them all night long,
No, yeah, I mean,
that would not be good.
Do they often run 3 shifts?
I don't know.
Not right now,
Not right.
but devil's advocate, what's to
Yeah.
stop them?
Yeah. and
That's what I'm saying. I mean, ideally, if they say, hey, it's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, it's not a big stretch, but you spend all this money to build on
That's,
and now you're gonna, I mean, I don't blame them from trying to get there. And if you only have so much room, then you just gotta, instead of running 40 guys during the day, you run 20 in the day, 20 at night. I mean, I get it. It just concerns me.
And that's been the only thing you can do if it's not in the ordinance is ask for voluntary compliance, but the pushback there is, why would I want to limit myself on
Right.
a plan, and then if I ever have to, I can't.
Right.
Or if it's,
Right.
yeah.
could the fan go on Rhino Drive? Could it be put there? I think that would cut
So-
down on a lot.
I mean, they're doing the modifications and they're looking to move forward with this. To move that to a different side of the building, could they do it and still add the hood? I think the hood is, can we ask them to do that? I think we could. I don't know if it
How
works
big is
out
this?
for the building or not.
How big is this fan? 3-4 feet square? Or?
Yeah, probably at least a 4x4.
I think with the hood and the building in front of it, it's gonna cut down a lot of the impact.
I agree, but I would like even more. I'm not gonna agree with anything else.
I mean, it's just cut it.
Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I know. I feel your pain. I would think that,
If it's into the same, as long as it's into the same space, if you're not putting
It's
that
the
wall.
corner, it's the corner.
I mean, yeah, that it takes the air out of the same space that it works for them. That's what the intention is. I wouldn't see that.
I think asking them or conditioning a hood to be put on this, I think is not an issue. I think moving that may not get you the right answer, so it might be not even possible for them to do it. So I think asking them to do so and seeing, considering it, if that's possible. They're doing this so they can stay at the property. I'm sure if they can cut down on anything that's causing issues, they wouldn't.
well,
They'll
I mean,
comply where they
they
can.
got, I'm sure they're reasonable people, that they understand what they're manufacturing in the middle of town, right?
They didn't love the idea of having the site meeting, but once we started talking to them and getting through things, they started talking through, yes, we can add the hood or different things along those lines, so I don't think it hurts to ask.
I like us asking, just saying,
Yeah.
we're, do everything we possibly can to reduce the noise and appease the neighbors, and this is what we feel is the best solution, is to move it out of hood. I can't believe moving the hood is that big of a deal.
Moving to the side.
Not if it's already on the corner. It's,
I think that would be an ask.
probably 220.
Yeah, we can ask them. Again, I don't
Patch it
know.
up.
Maybe they have storage on that side of the building and they can't inside or something, but,
I think they do have racking on that wall, but we have to move
They'll do all that stuff and then you'll move Rebecca next month.
There's talk of the people moving.
I'm just kidding.
No, I had said I wanted to move.
But whoever's there has to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, make that ask.
Okay.
We're trying to mitigate, they're not in the best situation here, we're trying to do what we can. And
Alleviate future issues, you know.
Mhm.
If they do all this and it still doesn't work, then we have to move it anyway.
Why can't they put it on the roof?
that might
Been
be,
loud.
yeah, I think it's down at the side's probably better.
I think it is, but yeah, the roof fans are, that's,
Yeah, I think your best result would be the hood, and then having that building as the buffer there, right where it is, might give you a better result than moving it somewhere else.
Are they still doing a fence to the new development part, the back end of there was talk at the.
there's gonna be some adding of the trees, but it's not, her question came up was towards the rest of
The
Willowcrest.
$500,000
residents.
homes looking at this new expansion and the new parking lot and everything, I would be not so happy.
The ordinance basically requires a buffer against a residentially zoned property. But technically, that's an open space in there that's gonna now be deeded separately, so it's technically two different, they don't own that, it's owned separately, so it's an open space. So to that point that we didn't require that full buffer along there, but they are going to be adding some trees along the basin berm. I don't think it's a full buffer like it's meant to be with the arborvitae on the residential side, but
I mean, that wouldn't be a big ask either.
Yeah, just a tree line. would
A
be
tree
nice.
line.
Yeah.
I think if I'm not mistaken, when we were at the planning commission, Scott, I think we had asked about a fence and they had stated that they were not gonna put the fence up because there were gonna be trees.
that was along the residential side.
Okay.
We're gonna do two, but it's pretty limited on space, and they just thought the arborvitae was gonna be fuller and thicker, definitely reach
And
higher
I
as
think
the
the
time
back
goes
end
on.
too would be a good idea also.
Okay. So it was the, basically the low end of the pond, the basin, the stormwater basin, looking to add some trees along there, facing towards the other residential properties.
That's a pretty common thing, tree buffer.
There's already some along Rhino, when that went in, there were, I'm sorry, there's pine trees put in.
Mhm.
And where that stops, there's a couple just spaced towards the development, but not a complete buffer. You continue that around the back of the property, I don't think you're gonna have a problem doing it either.
It's not very close to All right. So what do we have to do now?
So there is, we could go through the two. I would say probably do the two waivers together or separate.
I don't think it particularly matters. I would do them probably. I don't know what you see. Yeah, individually.
Yeah,
we'll do them
probably
individually.
just whenever,
I think the
yeah.
stormwater can go together with those two, but, so the first waiver is a waiver of section 500 for the preliminary plan submission to allow for a preliminary final, plan submission instead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
The second waiver is section 506.1 to allow a plan to be 1 inch equals 30 feet.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Oh, is that a common thing? Is that something we should be changing?
That's one we are changing.
Okay.
That's one of them that's
I
on
mean,
the
I think we
list.
waive that every freaking plan.
It's usually you write it in there that says it's 1 inch equals 50, but if it's a greater scale of 130, 20 or whatever for resolution purposes, you allow it. So that way it's not a waiver. But yeah, that's two of them. The other ones are the stormwater ordinance. These are modifications of section 310.B.12.B and the same thing, but D at the end. The first one is for the 36-inch clearance to be 24-inch clearance from the limiting zone. And the second is to infiltrate greater than 24 hours, in this case, no greater than 72 hours.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I'll take a stab at the last one, which is the recommendation for the plan approval. That plan approval would be a preliminary final plan approval conditioned upon the last craft letter, as well as the addition of the hood to the fan, and the request for trees along the south side of the property to add a buffer.
And then the fan relocation is that?
Yeah, I think that's more of a request them to, I don't know if they can't do that and we condition the approval on that. I think it might get messy if they can't.
Can we do something beyond the request on the trees? Make it a condition?
I was, and that's kind of my amateur attempt here maybe, I was trying to add that in as a condition for the, an additional condition beyond the letter. The two of them were add the hood to the fan and then the additional landscaping along the south side of the property towards Willow Crest.
I'm just trying to give it a little more teeth, you know?
Yeah, there's a better wording for that. I'm more than open. But Bruce, is there anything on that end of it that you would comment? Or-
You're gonna get a letter to us about these waivers that were approved. And your question, how do we word them?
Specifically, the southern portion of the property that is towards the Willow Crest development, and adding a tree buffer to that end of the property.
That sounds good. Good way to resolve it, yes.
I think that puts enough trees there that it does create at least a year-round screening.
Yeah, I think that should be part of it.
Yeah.
That sounds like it.
For sure.
Gives you a good buffer. And that's a pretty common thing these days.
So then there'd be the it would be granting a plan approval, preliminary final plan approval conditioned upon the last craft letter, as well as the condition of the hood on the fan
Reduce noise.
to reduce the noise, and
I'm moving it. Are we not moving it? Are we not suggesting we move it?
We
I
can
thought-
request, but I don't know that it's
Yeah.
gonna be a,
Please request, please.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Request. Thank you.
And then,
request it, but at a minimum, they have to put the hood on.
yes, and that's where we're saying we need the hood on there. And then the last one is the tree line along the southern portion of the property towards Willow Crest to create a year-round buffer.
If you have it, Rick. I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second.
All in favor? You get all that, Jen?
Yeah. Thank you, Jen.
Type it up and then send it to Scott for review.
Yeah. And we will talk with them about asking them to try to move that to the other side and see if they can do that.
I am pretty confident though, if they put that building there and you put that deflector on that fan, that will solve the fan problem.
Noise.
We had actually talked with them about moving that fan when we were on site to the other wall, and there was, don't remember what the reason was, but they weren't real keen on that. You can try again.
So there could be a bunch of conduits or there could be something.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know until you
Yeah,
get it.
that's right.
You don't know
Be
what's there.
actually on site and see what's there.
All right.
Okay.
All right, the next one, we're still talking land development here, but this was a waiver of land development. However, this is at the, if you're looking at the entrance of DECA, their main entrance. Again,
Substation.
yeah, looking south to the right is a substation, and I put in wrong information in the letter here, only that I assumed that it was property owned by DECA. That's completely owned by MedEd First Energy. So that entire footprint of that substation is theirs. They did have a conversation with Chris leading into their request for waiver of land development. Because this is not going to be a telecommunications tower, it is going to be a communication tower for themselves from power station to power station. As we understand, it's any local substation that they have. This allows for them to be able to communicate clearly and quickly and avoid any problems from that. So this will be strictly for the placement of their equipment. It will be on a stone area, so there really isn't going to be any disturbed area, although we asked them to just reach out to the conservation district to approve that they don't need any additional permits. It's in the industrial district. What else are we going to have for this? At the meeting, they brought additional drawings to just demonstrate the pole height and whatnot, because we had not known that going into it. It's actually going to be a relatively high pole, 180 feet, which we didn't know before the planning
That
commission.
is
So they were looking for a waiver of land development. We supported that. We recommended support of that conditional upon any required building accessibility permits that may be applied. I believe we decided that there was a building permit that they were going to need. Part of that, we will make sure they demonstrate FAA.
It needs a beacon at that height, wouldn't it?
They mentioned that at other locations, when they put these in, they've had to comply with either the, I don't know if they call them balloons or the balls that they have to put up there, or a beacon. But I think that's part of their FAA
That's their fault.
requirements. So that's part of what we'll be looking for is, but
I would think they'd want something there on kind of medevac getting in, out there.
Because their traffic.
that's true. But,
Jeff's gonna take it back, it was that high for.
That is
Peter.
high.
Yeah.
they actually offered to attend the meeting, but they're from out of town. We kind of said that unless there was any questions, we could try to answer them just from what they discussed at the planning commission, but I don't know if there's.
And
too
the
much
planning
more.
commission is good.
They recommended the waiver for
Yeah,
land development.
I'll make a motion for that.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Do we have a max height in the township?
Well, those towers can vary. That's not spelled out in the ordinance. Building height, of course, is, but not those towers.
But again, that's where they cleared with Chris that
Yeah,
As a
this
utility.
it's a utility, so it doesn't fall under the zoning ordinance. It falls under the Utilities Act. So,
So they can do what they want.
but they still have to comply with land development.
yeah,
All right. L and D.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
so this was just to bring this to your attention. It kind of came out of the 222 project, but the engineer who was or has been working with LB Fencing brought this to my attention just the end of the last week, and asked it to go on the agenda. But this may be the first of a few companies that may approach the board about this. PennDOT provided them with drawings having to do with land takings.
Right.
What is occurring at L&B Fencing is there's enough property being taken, and yes, they're talking about compensation and what that looks like, but they're losing all their parking spaces that front 222. I believe that's 10 of the 14 they're required to have. So they're left with the question of, okay, where are we going to put the parking spaces? Now, the zoning is only limited to X number of feet off of the zoning, off of 222. That's how the district's kind of drawn out. So they have a limited commercial property, and they're still evaluating where can we put this, can it fit? No problem there, but part of the compensation is they're going to have to put it somewhere, and there's engineering and plans that have to get completed. They're kind of making a general request now, but just floating it out there. Will they have to go through a full land development process to do this, or can they generally provide a plan, give them approval for that? They should still have to amend their recorded land development plan because it'll be pretty significant. But again, it's just thoughts that their engineer had looking at this, and they're floating it out there. Some of the other thoughts, as we were talking about it, was once they have done all this taking, and the township is losing X number of feet wide all the way through their commercial, is there thoughts of rezoning that line to kind of offset and provide more? That's a tough one, because what are you taking from it? Agricultural zone land? I don't know if you necessarily want to do that. But it's,
I thought about that too. 'Cause, yeah, it's going to affect us right out here. We have 3 acres set out as preserved land. Now they're going to take how many feet in front?
Yeah.
Where do you get it?
We are gonna have some real issues with this. I mean, some real issues. Now that I got a better feeling of the impact this is actually gonna have, I saw some better maps now, the final plan as of lately. Wow.
yeah, when he said that, I happened to be, when I was driving home that day, it's a pretty severe impact to that property.
Oh, absolutely.
When you think about how much further back it's going, that's probably a good 30, 40 feet into the property to get rid of those spaces.
And they're jammed between that and the old quarry.
Oh, yeah, they don't have anywhere to go.
They don't have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll get creative and find a place for it. I don't think that's
Yeah,
an issue, but
Out further in the property. But some don't have anywhere to go there. I mean, that is going to change things.
Are they gonna be consistent all the way through with taking
I
outside?
doubt it.
No.
As you drive up through, I think the next one up, what's the,
They're waggling their way through it. There's
Yeah.
gonna be some curves. It's not a straight line. So there's gonna be some slight curves in there, but
as you
it's
go
gonna affect a
through,
lot of properties.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of residential, that's pretty close to the highway.
And a lot of them are going,
I think there's a lot of residential on the north side, and that's why the south side, a lot of those buildings, if they were gonna shift it that way, you're gonna be condemning houses, I think. some of those existing buildings, and
Yeah,
I think they're shifting
there's a lot
it
of
more to
residential
where.
properties that they're taking. And it's,
But again, it was just to bring it to your attention. They may be the first one getting these plans and thinking it through and asking questions and trying to come up with their cost on the side, on their end. But I think they are probably gonna put something formal together and ask the board by maybe next meeting, just to probably move along the lines of just how it affects them, which is if we do a land development plan, what is the board gonna expect? And obviously, I can look at this and give you a better idea once they submit something, to give you thoughts and options. But I think the idea of shifting the zoning, that's a pretty significant change, but it sounds like this is a pretty significant project. for
If you
how
have
it's
commercial
affecting.
property, you lose 30, 40 feet, that's.
So they take it only from that side?
No, I think in this area,
Yeah, only from that.
I don't know what
Is
they're
it,
doing on the other.
is it Kirbyville right there where they're doing all that work?
Yeah, they'll probably wait till they're finished.
Just wait till they're finished and then, no, I'm just wondering, if that's right in that same area.
on that side,
If it's all shifted to the right
they
side,
are shifting that way.
that way,
To
so
the
that maybe
south
it won't
side
affect.
through there.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
Because there's a lot of homes along beyond Kirbyville,
Right.
that are pretty close.
Mhm. Those are the ones I was
Right.
thinking of. But- So again, it was just bringing it to your attention. Their engineer brought it up. I thought it's good, valid points so that you're aware that it's gonna start, you're gonna start seeing the properties receive these letters, so.
We should discuss that with Chris and see if there's a way that we can offer some sort of relief for that.
Yeah.
You know, because that's, I don't know, the easiest way to proceed there, but that's something,
Yeah, work with them as much as you can.
yeah.
Again, to that point, whatever they have to do, whether it's a land development plan, redo their plan and go through the submission process,
The bill goes to the state.
they may still be getting compensated.
Oh,
So I
they're
don't
going
know how
to.
much the township needs to.
They need to go to that negotiation arm with
Yeah.
what they're gonna have to.
Don't
I think
plan for the worst.
I think the
That's
process,
For the negotiations.
Yeah,
yeah, I think we could probably go through a pretty abbreviated process to
Right.
get a recorded plan revised.
Yeah, it's painless.
It's out there to do it, but, yeah, I think. Yep. Yeah, sorry, long-winded on that engineer's report, but that's all I have then.
Solicitor's report.
This morning, we sent you a delinquent zero report. It's pretty straightforward, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I think we can forego this till the next one.
was that?
I think we can forego it.
Yeah, I was just looking through it.
Yeah, it's like some sheriff's sale meetings on some of them.
There's not much here.
Yeah, nothing complicated.
No.
This stuff's getting pretty small now.
Yeah, I like that.
And then the lifeline agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one an attorney from our office also
Yeah.
reviewed.
Michelle sent a letter over. What difference, did you guys get to look at that? Did you guys?
Yes, I did.
There's some requirements. The only thing I would like to go through, make the changes that she recommended. I'd like to just do a 3-year. Or lock into one rate.
Yeah, they were asking for 5%.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's 3-year and then step it up to an increased rate for, I don't know how many years, but I think a 3-year to start would be sufficient.
Yeah,
See
I
how
think
this
so
goes.
too. Yeah.
So that's the motion I make, that we direct Michelle.
Michelle did mention that, the current agreement provides that you can terminate with 270 days advance notice. I will say, I've dealt with this agreement for a different municipality we have.
Mhm.
A lot of Michelle's comments, they omitted, they were just kind of grammatical mistakes, which they admitted this was just a sample taken from a different one they did. I also asked them about the 270-day requirement, and that was one requested by other municipalities so that Lifeline couldn't cancel them early. They did say the default is 90 days, if that's something the township wants to consider, and 90 days advance notice to terminate the agreement. But 270 again, I think is what they've been asked to do in the past and what they've been willing to do with other municipalities.
Do you see a detriment to going only 3 years versus what they're asking for? I mean, they didn't come back off of anything we asked for. We went from $0 to $21,000
in a heartbeat.
with a very aggressive negotiations.
Yeah,
The building rental and everything else on top of the ambulance service.
yeah.
And I get there's a crisis, but it's not created by our residents.
Right.
And that wasn't the deal when we signed up 7 years ago in Fleetwood. Made the agreement for them to move in. Now all of a sudden it's 21,000. It's probably not unreasonable when you consider what we pay for police and fire tax. But I would just like a 3-year agreement and then negotiate at the end of 3 years.
I don't think we should have a problem with it.
See, you should-
I mean, do you think there's a detriment not locking in longer to the township?
Who knows, you know? Might come back and say, you know, maybe should have, whatever. But I still like the ability to renegotiate in 3 years. There may be other options at that point too, you know?
That was my thought also.
You know, I would say we try to go for 3 years.
That sounds reasonable.
Yep. I'm sure we'll make that change.
I will.
All right.
That was it for this list.
Okay, on the addition to that, Topton covers some of our area. In the past, Fleetwood or Lifeline did 95%. And then Kutztown Ambulance did 5%, is my recollection.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
But Topton is asking for some financial support to do that 5%.
I saw that.
So,
Is there a reason why they have that 5%?
territory, I guess, location.
Makes it complicated.
I think we could reach out to them and make that decision next.
How much was it they were asking?
They weren't asking. They didn't say have a
They
specific.
gave us
No,
examples.
they, basically it was, the phone call just asked if we were, putting a tax on, EMS tax. And so we, at the last meeting, we had discussed that we may do that for next year, but as of this year, it was just gonna come out of the general fund. But he asked if we would include them in negotiations.
I didn't even think of it. I didn't know they covered that much.
No, I didn't either.
So what, fire company left. Who's the next to run cars?
Yeah.
We should probably research that a little bit.
Sure.
Gotta see what percentage they cover.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that at next
Yeah, we
meeting.
need to do something similar.
Yep. All right. Generator repair quote.
Yes.
Robbie, you haven't had any issues with that.
No.
I'm just on the fence. Like, it's only 17 years old. They think they should go 25. I just don't think we got the life out of it, but I don't want to have issues like we had 4 Sundays in a row. But since then, they seem to have fixed it, correct?
I haven't gotten any calls that we lost power there or anything, but I'm not too experienced in that field, so.
Yeah, I don't think they have. I'm not either. I'll probably defer to the electrical guy sitting in the middle here.
Yeah. I guess if you're looking,
It's a lot of money.
it is a lot of money.
Scott thought it was cheap. I mean, not cheap, but very reasonable. I'm thinking,
Oh, I knew it wasn't gonna be a little amount of money. Hey, and it's one of those things where you don't have to take action on this at all if you don't, I mean, I would think the best solution would be just bite the bullet, get it over with, put a reliable system in there and do it. The other alternative is to see if you get some reliability factor out of what you have there now. It goes another couple of years. And it might. Or it could break down next Sunday morning. You know what I mean?
we don't want that again, but I'm gonna defer to you, whatever you recommend, and I'm gonna go with that.
Didn't they have a question on the availability of the generators as well?
the parts.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no more parts. 17-year-old, they can't get parts, which is,
I didn't know if it was the actual
I find
generator itself.
ridiculous in my opinion, but
Yeah,
that's not my field. 17 years is only 20 in the 2000s.
There may be some truth to that.
It depends on.
Maybe some- I'm not calling them a liar.
If it's electrical circuit boards, we have problems getting.
Yeah,
Stuff becomes obsolete and the next model comes, they don't make it anymore.
and,
Depends what it
and they
is.
don't have to support it after.
Correct.
It's actually 3 years, they don't have to support it, so.
I'm good with whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, the funds are there, it's just.
well, my thinking, I would probably just take that problem off the table and replace it. And then we go-
Hopefully good
but
for
I-
like 20, 25
I
years.
would retain the old,
Not 25, 17 probably won't support it.
Yeah, I don't know what the lifespan is.
All right, it is a problem if the pump won't work.
it is, that's something that has to work. That's what I look at, is the fact that it has to work, so. I would think we should just go bite the bullet.
Okay.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we replace it.
Double second.
And I make, and to approve this quote here.
Yeah, and approve the quote. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Road work. Probably anything to add to your report?
Not really, no. Scott, probably touched on a bunch of things, and I know I talked to Jen earlier about the voting stuff. So I don't really have anything.
Bang, job. We ordered nice weather for you too to direct traffic. That was probably got a suntan.
Yeah,
Did we get a final count of how many people voted?
I have no idea.
Usually they posted it out
I think it was
front.
a little over 2,000 from what I was hearing.
That's awesome. I don't know how many registered voters are in Richmond, but that seems like a pretty good count.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna fix Eagle Road.
Yeah, I'll probably do that this week.
I just don't want it to break up more.
No, we're just gonna go in there, mill it out, put some new blacktop in, and probably less than 2 hour fix.
Okay.
So we'll have that fixed up this week.
I think that's reasonable to just pass them costs on.
I talked to him about it.
Do you know it?
I talked to Steve, and he said that he had problems with a tree there and took it down. I told him that he has to maintain his water ditches, and that he would be responsible for that. He seemed to give everything pushed back, so.
Yeah, did a good job. Looks nice.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that, but busted up the road. All right. Then the new truck came.
Yeah, we just got it today. I believe you guys have the check to sign and take care of that. And
Ooh.
Now we're gonna pay for it.
Generator does look cheap now.
the only other thing is, I don't know, we didn't really talk about the price to put on the old one to sell it, but I think we did it before, is you guys just approved to get like the cost and then to list it on Municipal.
Yeah.
I'd like to try and do that and get that listed and try to.
Now's the time would be
Yeah,
awesome.
Now's a good time, so if we can do that, and then I'll try to list it on Municipal in enough time before the next meeting.
Where are you gonna come up with the price?
I'll do some research and see what things are going for, and then send you guys some emails or something
Okay.
and see what a ballpark reserve or, price that we're looking to get out of it right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, now's the time.
Now's the time.
Right.
I'm surprised we got the truck.
Got $100.
So let's just start, Rob. Let's just start,
Get the
Eddie.
plow.
He's taking scrap metal.
Yeah.
Scrap price. We waited about I think it's maybe 2.5 years for that truck,
Yeah.
so it's nice to finally have it here.
Okay.
That's right.
Oh, no, wait, don't we have to, excuse me, before we do it, don't we have to do the sewer facilities exemption? Approve that?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was for the Northeast.
Yeah,
Okay.
Scott recommended that.
I could see that in there. I thought that was something that you already did. Do this.
thought they know if we needed to or not, but they thought we should approve it.
So what is it exactly?
Yeah, the written certification.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think DEP is part of the waiver for that connection to the sewer. It's just asking for this information to be provided. to- I think it just serves as the township and the sewer engineer signing off, acknowledging what this is, but doesn't have to modify the actual sewage planning module.
Module.
It's just one more step as part of the waiver that they're agreeing to.
You're just stating that they have the capacity for it.
Yeah, I think I believe Burke Surveying was asking for this, and I don't think Scott had a problem doing so.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Go ahead, sorry, payment of the bills.
In the general fund, we had check numbers 11,695 to 11,735, including EFTs for $203,702.71.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
State fund, we had check number 2127 for $11,184.36.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Light fund, there were no checks. Sewer fund, check numbers 3253 to 3260, including EFTs for $32,927.26.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
I'll second. Oh, sorry. All in favor? Aye. I'm from last
You
week.
guys are gonna hurry. Walnut Town Fire Escrow, check number 2185 for $1,084.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Virginville Fire Escrow, check number 2186 and 2187 for $22,062.37.
I'll make a motion to pay it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I had on the agenda discuss state fund account. What I learned from the liquid rules, that you're permitted to use we have the $200,000 that come in from the state for our road work. Any leftover excess we can actually use for tree trimming, purchase of new vehicles, etc. We have an excess of $50,000 in that fund that we can use for the purchase of a new truck. If we would like to, instead of taking all the amount of money, I think it's $85,000 for this new truck, we can use $50,000 out of the state fund instead of taking it all out of the general fund. Or we can save it for another time.
I'd just like to see it in the state fund. We
Okay,
have plenty of roads to fix.
okay, that, just figured I would throw it out there.
Thank you.
And I do have a quote here from Smart Guys for a new office computer for myself, since Windows 10 that I have on my computer is expiring the end of the year, and we have to upgrade to Windows 11. The only thing that we can remove off of this is I only need one monitor, and I don't really need a keyboard or mouse. Not that it's gonna take a whole lot of money off the estimate here, but
Why does he have two here?
I have two monitors in my office. One of them is brand new, one of them is old.
Well, I make a motion that we approve it. Whatever Jen needs, if she can deduct something off here that she doesn't need. But a maximum of $11.99, but
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
And that's all I have.
Okay, now we're gonna go into a short executive session. Shouldn't take too long, and then we'll be back to approve the final budget and adjourn. Give us a few minutes.
We'll be back.
Yeah, that was too much fun.
Unless you wanna oppose the budget. We're not gonna cut anything for fines, I mean, for
Anybody named Fine?
for fines or,
Sure, let's oppose everything, make them rework it.
Good would stay away for the whole thing, or else.
My wife's on with my son now, so. Somebody in there.
None of us here would have known that.
Scott, can we see the plans again? We had filled out the thing before.
The solicitor has some major objection. Do you mind if they take a view
No,
of
of course
the
not.
plan?
In fact, this is the proper place to
This is
look
the-
at it, so.
I had to fill out a thing. Thank you.
It's long enough for a day.
Not a question. What were you looking for over at my place?
What did they send you?
There's two different ones.
What do you mean?
There was 2 letters,
Okay,
10 photos.
I'd have to look at what it sent you, but, you know, you gotta get rid of the piles of scrap.
There's no piles of scrap.
Well, look at it. There's a pile of metal.
There's some dock work on. I'd like to keep some sheet metal if I have a need for it, but there's some gates, there's a plow. The part at the bottom, I was gonna get cleaned up, but I just didn't have availability this weekend. This time of year is really kind of difficult to get anything done in my work schedule.
Are you selling firewood or is that all for your consumption?
I sell a little, a few cords here and there, nothing, you know,
Dad.
but I burn 12 plus cords. No, in my basement.
This is the new development.
I think we just want to see it get cleaned up. It's not like you have a farm property.
What?
You're in the R2 zone.
I said before I was working, nothing happens as quick as I'd like in general, whether it's that or anything else in my house, you know.
They allow things bigger in this building.
Getting the weather. And I know I gotta clean up, so I can drive right around the neighborhood and I can find 3 just as bad. And I do know that you said, you know, that
I got
Yeah, he had a place in Cleveland and he.
oh, yeah, I know, and it's,
And the
and I know that
permanent.
we've had this conversation
When they come
before,
from the board, I have to act.
but it, you know, for whatever reason, you know, people don't like what I'm doing because you've been over there for multiple complaints. Some founded, some unfounded.
But I think you do have a lot of stuff back there.
Yeah, it's, but it's not necessarily rubbish or trash or.
If I remember correctly, don't you have a bunch of totes, you know, tanks?
Yeah,
You know, do you need all those?
well, I want to put firewood in them. That's what I got them for. I got them at where the price point was good. Haven't been able to pull them out. I mean, I have 2 that sit
There's some trees in there. Like those
up
are-
at my rental property. They're full of wood that I got before.
She's complaining too much and we're not putting any
Yeah.
trees past.
Well, if I can meet you there sometime, I'll be happy to do that. I don't know what your work schedule is.
Well, I can do, I can kind of leave whatever I want
Extended.
since I'm
So they're getting them in and out.
I'm over in Mount Penn
And
running
I
a
go across the bridge.
tenant fit out,
down there in
so I could leave whatever.
I mean, I'll be happy to meet you up there towards the end of the day. I don't know, 5 o'clock, it's getting dark.
Right, well, that's what I was like,
Yeah, that's.
even like
I
tonight,
know it's aluminum.
you know, I call him, but we'd have to meet so early to, you know, because he would be up here, but
At the same time, you're right.
I mean, some of it I want to clean up, some of it, like the wood, I haven't gotten.
I know that happens.
Because I'd like to get what's there, either processed and used.
And then this is gonna be a parking lot.
No, I mean, I've been, the older stuff, and then I have some logs that I did stack up with. I'd like to get a mill in, a mill.
Right in your backyard.
Once again, nothing happened as quick as I'd like.
Well, I'm not,
I get
I'm
it.
not coming back to you and saying next week that it has to be cleaned up.
I'd like to get, I mean, I had one area in the yard and I did get that cleaned up. And then there was another area that I was gonna work on more down towards the bottom end, in behind, you know, down the bottom of the L.
Yeah.
And it just haven't been able to.
Well, I get it, you're working. I'll be happy to, you know, stop by. You let me know when it suits you, and if I can fit it in my schedule, I'll be happy to do that. And, you know, let's come up with a game plan, and I'm not looking for it to be done in 2 weeks. It took a lot longer than that to.
Well, it's been, yeah, I mean, you know, something said about a structure that was built, I didn't build anything.
I don't write those letters. I don't put the letters out. So I have to look at it. It might have my name on it.
Somebody else signed it, I think you took photos of,
Yeah.
so.
So I'll have to look at it to see what it says. So there's, you know, I'll work with you.
We'll get it cleaned up. I mean, because I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to get it cleaned up, then I'd like to move on with the house and, you know, all that. I understand it can't happen. You guys aren't gonna be real receptive to that when it, you know, so.
But just remember, with the house, you gotta go through here for the CHP.
Mhm.
So, you know, we don't, I'm not gonna come to the hearing and say, well, I wouldn't give them the variance or the special.
Well, no, but when it's known, or, you know, people talk, I understand how it is. And I also know that relationships matter.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, like the guy behind me at the meeting here, he's increased his footprint, but nothing else. It's just stuff like that.
well, again, I'm not driving around. this-
I understand that, I understand that,
That's why
but
I get-
you know, right across the street from my neighbor, there's just a strip of grass that's 8 feet tall, because the guy never mowed it, because when it flooded, some of the neighbor's gravel flew into his, you know, it's a strip.
Right.
And I said to my mom, I said, well, geez, if I knew I could get it some good topsoil and say, hey, let me scoop that out with my tractor, put you some topsoil in it, you can mow it. She said, well, why would you do that? Because it would help the guy out, and I can do that, you know, as long as I would know he's not like,
They have two excavators.
I understand. I said to my wife, there was a complaint, we kind of know where it's coming from, the lady's wide street.
Oh, yeah.
So they have those.
Susie Smith used to be my mother-in-law's real good friend,
Who's Susan Smith?
down
Yeah.
in the gray house. The vantage point where the pictures are mostly taken from. And I know for a fact that for whatever reason, when we moved in, they were great to us. And then as I did what I did around the property, he's taken exception to it.
Okay.
We don't have enough to just walk up and say something. So, but she, last year, when she was in the stream up on my property digging, and then
she said something, my mother, she said, well, I saw him taking photos, and my mother-in-law handled it perfectly. She said, well, with everything that's been done to him there, you can't really blame him. Oh, we would never report it and then look away. And I'm like, come on. So, we'll get it caught.
Don't worry.
Right,
I'm not taking you to court and
Why?
put you in jail.
Well, I won't get you anywhere, because if I don't go to work, you won't get your money anyhow.
I'm not looking for money. All they want is to get it
I know.
closer to compliance. And I usually when I have to go to somebody for something like this, they know they've got a problem. You know you've got a lot of stuff out there.
Got a lot of stuff, I don't know anything.
Well, one
That's our
thing is
shed.
trash,
There's
it's
some that are-
cash.
Oh. Yeah, if you should, we did a job for a guy back on River Road. We're tearing wood out, wood that I would've just cut up and burnt. He wouldn't let us haul it out. He saved everything. He's put an OSB underneath the pool deck. I said, you know what that's gonna do in a year? It's pool deck. Yeah. Yeah. Over, it's over off of River Road in Williamsburg Township. OSB, half inch. I said, you know what that's gonna be in a year? It's gonna be an inch thick and worth nothing. His place is out his garage. It's a joke. We have a safety meeting every month. We go to breakfast. Housekeeping was the kid's topic that's finishing out the job. And they're just like, the guy don't let nothing go.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, and I'm like, thank God I said, you think mine ain't nothing compared to his. I mean,
So you won't believe some of the places.
oh, I can imagine.
Gravel nuts roll into the lower.
All right, so you want me to get in touch with, call your office?
Yeah.
Call your cell phone?
I hesitate with that because I get called, I have no idea who's calling me at all times of the day, and then I forget to get back to people. So it's easier if you can leave a message for me at the office, and let them know a time, and I'll get back to you one way or another. We'll set something up. All right? If that doesn't work, we'll try that once or twice. If that doesn't work, we'll figure out another way. I'll send smoke signals up. All right?
All right.
I'm tired.
Leaving? I don't know why you'd stick around. They're not coming out with anything.
Not for us. What is it, budget related?
Yeah, I don't know what that was, there was something.
Salaries.
Yeah.
Love for you.
You're just trying to figure out how big a cut they're gonna get. Everybody.
It's gonna be that drainage at the end.
All right.
See, hey, Joe.
Yeah, into the filtration. It takes 72 hours
It's,
for it to be.
Yeah, that's the sewer. When you're bringing it down close to the right way, taking it over and turning into the big interceptor that goes behind the houses back there.
So they're putting retaining wall here as well,
Proposed vertical curb.
proposed vertical curb.
No, I don't think that's I think they're just,
Putting concrete on.
yeah, I think that's just kind of a,
Just where the stuff is in.
it's basically just to make sure any drainage is hitting the inlets and then going in, instead of just creating a sheet flow. That way, it's, here's that store,
Parking lot stopper.
it's basically a curve, but on the side of the pond, so it pushes it over to each one of the inlets.
They call this a pond. It's not,
Well,
it better not be a pond.
that's
That'll be a whole nother issue.
That's just bad habit on my end. He's always full of another thing. Basic.
Retention.
Infiltration. Yeah.
But there's no lighting down.
As the solicitor said, we have no time to do it, then right at this meeting, so.
I must have took it in with me. Let me just go in. Let me go in. I must have. I bet you I have it.
Okay,
Is it a lot?
yes.
Always something.
Okay, we're back in off of executive session, back in the public meeting. Our proposed budget, expenditures for the general budget. Expenditures for the general budget are $2,085,108. For the proposed 2025 budget. The anticipated revenue is $1,683,582. There's quite a gap there. The gap's been growing, but we do have a general fund balance of, what is our balance? There, I have that here. Current assets is almost $2 million.
Yeah.
So our thought is we're not going to raise taxes; they'll stay the same. We don't want to increase taxes, even though our costs are going up, until we use up some of that excess money in our general fund. We've been blessed. We seem to make not too much dent in that amount because of different things, COVID money. One big thing I want to make note of for the public. In 2022, our police protection was $538,000. They added officers to patrol here. That was in 2022. The budget for this year is $757,000 for Richmond Township, which is a big amount. We talked about it before. That's where a good chunk of the budget goes to. So, but that's the general budget as proposed. So that's what we're gonna advertise, and we'll approve that next meeting, and that'll be made available for public. What do you advertise it so
That they can come and see it,
Then
yeah.
go and see it.
Mhm.
So, is there anything else?
You need to make a motion and have it advertised.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess that's it. Any public participation?
I just want to thank you for your compassion, for listening to us, mostly me.
We understand your situation, it's not ideal, and we recognize that, but we're a little limited to what we can
Yeah.
do also.
And I appreciate that.
But what we appreciate is that you come and inform us. Without the residents coming and saying, hey, this is going on, we don't know, right? We try and do the best we can, and I was shocked when I came to vote. Like, I think I know pretty many people. I've lived here all my life. You walk through the voting lines, just don't even know a tenth of them. So there's a lot of people in this township that we never see or hear from. We assume things are going okay, but it's quite amazing to me. Like, I walk through the line, I'm like, oh man, I don't even know the tenth of these people. And I know a lot of people. Steady the whole time, like it was at night, but it was. I think everybody had an idea we'll come early. I waited an hour. which was fine. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Well, second.
All in favor? Well, thank you.
Oh,
That's my pleasure.
Oh,
it's a pretty call
Thank
meeting.
We're gonna keep that.
Just for my own curiosity.
What's that?